Is that your phone or mic?
That's phone with stand.
Oh.
That's my new vibrator.
Oh, wow. Lucky you. Shutdown's treating you kindly.
I think I have to leave now.
No. Okay. What would life be without all these jokes? So welcome today, Astrid. I think I've managed to start recording.
Yes.
Shani, can you look whether it started?
Yes, it started.
Wonderful. So over to Astrid. She's going to be teaching us all about peat today. Really looking forward to learning. And I have two confessions to make, Astrid.
Yes.
I got confused when I was putting your topic. You kept sending me peak consciousness, and I kept thinking it's peat consciousness.
Yes.
And I kept getting Shahina even more confused because she said peak, I said peat. And
yes, very similar.
yes. And yesterday I did something even more funny. You look so different now that I could hear your voice and say, hey, you're the same person, but I couldn't put everything together because I can't see properly anymore.
Oh, you need help from Dr. Kwesi.
Yeah, I need to have a consult with Dr. Kwesi and with Nevadita, both of them. So I'm just able to see properly, and because of that, I couldn't make out what I was looking at. So I apologize that I was slow at connecting with you yesterday.
Okay, good.
I'm forgiven?
Okay, no problem. Of course.
Okay, go ahead and weave your magic. You have 2 hours. Do what you want. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm not sure if the audience is the same like yesterday, so I still say a few words about myself.
Yes.
So my main profession was working in the IT area, and in parallel I learned the heal practitioner, and I learned a lot of different methods. So I'm a heal practitioner since 20 years, and I practiced so only in the free time. So I was fully engaged with my primer job until 4 years back. And then I got into early retirement with that job. And now in the last 4 years, I had much more time to work on what I really love to do. And I learned a lot of different methods, but I still remained now only with peat and with peak states, or with META-Peat. And I came to both methods because of Dr. Kwesi, because during Meta Health training, he told us we should read a book. And this book was the first volume of the Institute of Peak States. And in this book, there I found the information about peat. And because at that time, so I liked as well peak states, but at that time my thoughts were, oh dear, how should I go to Vancouver? Because peak states is the institute from peak states is in Vancouver in Canada, and the institute for peat was in Europe. And then I said it is much simpler to stay in Europe and to learn this method. And at that time, I'm sure it, and I really am not regretting that I have started with this method, and I am still teaching it. In the meantime, I'm also a trainer of this method. And what I found extremely interesting in this method was that the author is Sivora Slavinsky, and he's from Serbia, and he told in his part of that volume 1 Peak States book that he was able to to bring people of experiencing the unity from where all of us we are born. So the base principle of all his things he's doing is a principle of duality. And at that time, I did a lot of meditation, and I experienced some really nice and interesting things, but it was for me, well, they were fantastic, but after a few seconds or minutes, they were gone. And then I had to sit down again and stay there for weeks or months and hope that maybe some special things will happen again. And when I read that book at that time, I said, okay, maybe what we all are striving at is to feel and to live this unity. And therefore, I thought maybe when I learn these methods, I will short up my way and I don't need to meditate anymore. So I can get really direct there where I want to be. And yes, and then I started to learn Peat. And what I found, in fact, was a little bit, it was something different that I have expected, in fact. But on the other hand, it was something I have also loved very much. I saw immediately when we started the training and learned the first method that, in fact, these methods can be used for eliminating negative emotions. And at that time, so I knew only, I knew a few methods, but the most common I used was EFT. And now I found something which was so much faster and easier that I said, okay, this is in fact what I want to be, what I want to learn. And it's not important if I'm going to this unity or not. But in fact, with each method I applied and with each problem I solved, I got this unity. Because I have to switch a little bit to my slides, because what we encountered there was, one second. Okay. What we were encountering there was, so everything, his whole work was based on this principle of duality. And we all know this sign of yin and yang. And we can also see that both parts are forming a unit, and that in each part there is already the seed of the other part. And even if we know all these signs and the theory behind, I was sure that at that time very less people know how should we integrate this information in our daily life. And everything which is inside of us and outside of us has this duality inside. So it is bright and it is dark, it is poor and it is rich, and it is happiness and sadness. So everything which we are encountering has this pair. And there is a law that between a pair or two poles of a unity, there is no direct connection. And we will switch to another pole immediately without having any, or we will behave in a way that we will switch automatically also to the other pole. And I am convinced that everyone had this experience that at a certain moment it was so nice, so life could be so nice that we're saying, okay, it could stay and remain like it is now. But we all of us know it doesn't. And after a short time, somehow we are behaving in a way, unconsciously, of course, that exactly the reversal will come up into our lives. And this jumping from one pole to another will be endlessly. It's just like, it depends on how the wind is blowing on a leaf. And it will happen without us being able to guide these jumps. or to control them until we are reaching the unity of these two poles. And this is the basic principle of all the methods which are coming from this area, from the Peat methods. So everything is striving to reach the unity, and not in a manner that we are thinking it, but in the manner that really in our brain this unit will be fulfilled. And now, so we have, what can we do? So the idea of Tsivarat was that everything and indeed he was striving also to spiritual development, and he had the same idea like Granville Fettridge, that everything what we were striving at, so this spiritual development, this is absolutely completely done in ourselves, and we have only the task to remove what is hiding this. And what is hiding is our negative emotions and negative beliefs. And that's why he said, okay, he wants to neutralize them, and sustainable, of course, he as well. And we can neutralize them when we are getting into the unity of them, because then we are free to decide in which direction we want to go. So we are no more jumping from one side to another. We are just free to choose what we want. And of course, we will choose the positive one. And it is like that, you know, when we are born, after a short time, we will find out that some things are not feeling good. And then we are starting to behave in a way that we want to avoid what is not feeling good. And then we are choosing a certain direction because that is feeling better. And going on this way, after a while, we are taking again a decision and say, okay, this part again doesn't seem to be nice. So I start to choose a new direction, and so on. And everything what is not feeling good, we don't want to feel. And this is in fact the basic problem of us, because this we are evitating and we don't want to feel has the same value also like the positive part of a unity. So both of them have the same value, and the single way out of this duality principle, where everything what is negative we don't want to face, is that we are indeed reaching this unity. And so we have a lot of tools here in Peat, which all of them are based on this principle. I will go to them in a different way after that in each one, and describe them a little bit. And of course, because at that time I was strongly related to Meta Health, I saw, okay, if we know that, or because Meta Health is telling us that all the reasons of our organic illnesses are emotional, negative emotional situations we have had in the past. So we can, in this area, have our attention and solve our emotional problems with these methods. And then we are able to solve also the organic illnesses. So what the basis on what or how Peat was working was that they said, when we have a trauma, the trauma has a start and a beginning. And between this and start and end of a trauma, there is passing some time. But they found out that it is absolutely enough when we are picking out from this whole time slot we have encountered a trauma. It is enough when we are picking out only one single slide. And when we are able to heal this single slide, it's just like a screenshot, then the whole rest of the trauma will vanish. And so in all the methods which are belonging to PEAT, we are working with one single moment of a trauma. And we are working with 4 elements. So we are working with a picture, and this picture you can consider, you can take the picture which is maybe the most worst situation in your trauma. Then regarding to this picture, it's just like a screenshot. Yes, it has only 2 dimensions. It doesn't have 3 dimensions. So only 2 of them. So next to this picture, we need the negative emotion, which is linked to that. Then we need also the body sensation, which these emotions will provoke in our body. We have always a body sensation as well. The body reacts to an emotion. And the 4th element is always a thought, which exactly in that moment occurs to us. And when we are healing this, so all 4 elements, where in fact the emotion is the most important, but the other things are also connected to the emotion, and they are forming a unit. So when we are healing this unit formed by these 4 elements, then we can expect that the emotion is healed forever. It is sustainable. And at that time, I took it as granted. And of course, the experience I had after that showed me that it is like that. But when I learned peak states, I still have had my doubts. And I asked my trainer, and I had special sessions with her. And I wanted that she is checking when I am solving an issue of mine with the PEAT methods, if it is indeed gone in the primary cell, like I taught about, which I talked yesterday. And she confirmed that it is really gone. So because I didn't know what should I do now with PEAT when I started to learn peak states. Should I still teach it? And now I know, yes, I should teach it, because there's one big advantage of all these methods. They are very easily to be learned, and the effect is, so they don't need much time, because it's not, we don't need to listen to the whole story people normally want to talk, because in a very short time we are sensing the negative emotion behind the story, and when we have that emotion, we can heal it. We can heal it as well, even if the person is not telling us what's about and which his problem is. And this, for me, it was a big advantage, because I made the experience that there are issues about some people don't want really to talk. And it is very common, it was sexual abuse. They didn't want to deliver detailed information, and I don't need them. I don't even need to listen or to hear or to know which topics they are working with. And this was for me very interesting, because everyone can learn these methods. They are very easy to be applied, and that's why I stick to them, and I'm still teaching them. So I'm going now to the different methods which are belonging to PEAT. You are seeing I'm using the word PEAT, but also META-Peat. At that time, so I learned PEAT from Dr. Sivora Slavinsky, but the PEAT name was not registered. And when I started to make advertising in Germany, because there was nothing in German at that time in this area, a lot of people asked me that I should register the PEAT name. But well, I couldn't. In fact, it's not my method. But after a while, because some people insisted, and just those people who were publishing some articles in journals about PEAT, and then I decided to register the name META-Peat, because I combined the knowledge from Meta Health together with PEAT. And the author, he always said he's not working with organic illnesses, because sometimes he had great effects and great results, but normally he didn't. And for me, it was completely clear why he didn't, because he didn't know on which emotion he should work when he wanted to heal an organic illnesses. And I told him about mental health, but he wasn't interested about it. And then I said, okay, I will register my own name, and I combine meta health with peat, and that's why everywhere you will see META-Peat. And so the I'm starting now with a method deep peat. You in the two following up slides, I will describe it more detailed, because it is a very important one, very important method, and it is like that. So when we have now a negative emotion we are facing just now, this is just like the top of an iceberg. I don't know if in English you are saying it's the same. It's the same. But however, so it's only the top what you are perceiving. But below, there are other emotions we don't know. And in fact, we have created during our lifetime a kind of it's just like the plates in a restaurant where one plate is put on another and is in a heating device. So we have a lot of negative emotions, and our goal with DPEAT is we are having a starting point which is just our negative emotion we are feeling just now, and then we are going downwards, and we are looking into our consciousness and unconsciousness about the other layers of negative emotions which are below. And when we are going down in this stack, at a certain moment, so we will find a lot of negative things. And in this stack, when we are going downwards, we will find at a certain moment that something positive will come up. And the polarity is between this first positive element which is coming up and the last negative emotion which was in the stack. And when we are bringing these two emotions into the unit, then everything which was above this polarity will vanish in a minute, immediately. It is gone. And you will not be able to feel neither your emotion, your negative emotion, which we have started with. And it is done in the following way. So we are starting with a negative feeling. We are using some points around our eyes. There are the tapping points already known, but we are not tapping, we are just holding the fingers on them. There are the 3 points around our eyes. And we are inhaling deeply our negative feeling, and then we are letting it go. And when during this inhalation of too much oxygen, then we are lifting a little bit the connection to our subconsciousness, and subconscious things will come up. And so we are going from one emotion to another. And when we are getting to that positive one, and we want to gain the unity between the positive one and the last negative one, we are doing it when through inhaling both emotions, the positive one and the negative one. We are inhaling them extreme deeply at the same time. And when we are exhaling, we will question, or we will ask the client if he's still able to perceive the positive feeling and the negative feeling separately. And normally when the process is done correctly, you will not be able to feel anymore the separation. And the unit you will feel in your brain, and it is like the two things are merging into one. They are starting to circle, and in that moment you really are not able to feel neither the positive one, neither the negative one. It's just a mass of something which is happening in your brain. And then we know you have reached the unity. And this is the way META-Peat is working. And after that, okay, we are saving this thing and so on. So to be sure that it is sustainable, and we are putting additional questions that the client indeed will see that he's not able to feel any emotion when he's going to the trigger moment we have decided, we have defined in advance. So other method which I like extremely much is the finger method, and there it's another kind of using the polarity. There, this method is extremely good for things which happened in the childhood. So things which are already past, but they are still bothering us. And here we have the polarity between when the customer is coming to us, the client is coming to us, we are putting him these 4 questions about the picture, about the emotions, the thought, and the body sensation here and now at our place. And here and now it is safe. So everything is positive. Then we're turning around the person with 180 degrees, and then he has to be in a trigger moment where he faced his past trauma. And he has to describe again a picture, the thought, the feeling, the emotion, and the body sensation. And then what we are doing, we ask him to imagine everything which all these 4 elements combined in this one single picture in front of him, and we ask him that he is pointing out into the center of this picture and to combine the distance from the finger which is in the center of this picture, and to estimate the distance from this point to the left side in that very room where he is just now with us. And then he should estimate the distance between his finger and the wall in front of him, in the background of him, in his back, and on the left side, the top and the bottom. And why are we doing this? On one hand, he is extremely in the past emotion, and normally people are reacting very emotional in this trauma they have encountered. And when we are asking them now to estimate the distance. What are we doing, in fact? So when he is feeling this trauma, he is in his right half of his brain where he's feeling the emotions. And with the left one, we are thinking logically. And when he's doing this estimation, he is still linking so through the estimation, he has to use his left brain, but he's still linking the left brain to this negative emotion because there is a picture. So in fact, we are combining the 2 halves of the brains, and we know that if they are collaborating, then we know that there is no trauma anymore if the 2 halves of our brains are working together. So after that, so this is everything he has to do these 6 estimations. Then we are turning him back to the left side, again 180 degrees. And when he's opening his eyes, we are asking him if he can remember or feel the emotion we have worked on. And normally it is absolutely gone, only because of this turnaround and linking the 2 half brains in this way. So everything I have told now is in fact known also with other methods, but the combination of this knowledge into such short method is really amazing. And with this method, so I am using it very, very often when people are telling me about sexual abuse. And in this case, I don't need to know anything. So people can think about a picture, they can feel the feeling, they don't need to tell me just nothing about it, yes? So another method is, 1 second, I need to drink something. Another method.
Can everybody mute themselves, please? Thank you.
Another method is META-Peat 4. And there we are doing something similar. In this case, we have to write a little bit. On one half of a page, we are asking the client to tell us his trauma, and we are writing down the picture he's facing, so this he has to tell, the emotion, the body sensation, and the thought. And on the other side, we are asking him to tell us the exactly opposite of what he faced at that time. So when on the bad side he faced, for example, anger, then on the other side he could choose what is for him the opposite of it, and then he can deliver as well the 4 elements for this. So the opposite feeling, then the opposite thoughts, the opposite body sensation, and the opposite picture. And then we have these 4 elements, the positive one and for the negative one. And then we are switching with this person to all these four elements on one side, then we are going to the other side, then to the side before, and so on. We are switching, and we are switching so long until all the elements will disappear. And they will disappear because our brain is not able to have 2 polarities in the same time in its memory. It's just like our brain can imagine how it is to hate, but it can imagine how it is to laugh. But when it has a sensation that it has
Can everybody please mute themselves? Sanskriti, can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
And if,
can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
Sorry.
And if our brain has a sensation that it has as well, what was the polarity, anger and laugh, it's at the same time into us, then our brain will bring them into the unity. And using this switch from the positive and the opposite side and negative side a few times, our brain step by step will annulate, it will nullify the difference between them. And at the end of this method, on both sides will be no element anymore which the person can remember. So pictures will fade, the emotion is gone, there is no thought anymore and no body sensation. And then we know that it is done. And you have to be sure that every person and every brain is reacting in the same way. So it's nothing about, so when you are applying all these methods, you can really be sure they will work because all human beings are the same. So, and then, okay, we are asking, do you still can imagine that negative feeling, and it is gone. So META-Peat 2 is something similar, but in this situation, we are doing the polarity again between brains, and we are starting with a negative feeling, and then we are saying, okay, you are feeling this feeling, and during the time you are feeling it, just tell me what thought is coming up. And this is it is something very strange because a lot of people, they know what they are feeling, but they cannot think anything about it. And mostly they are coming up with another feeling. But we have to be very severe and say, okay, no, I have asked you about the thought about it. Then they are telling you a thought. And then you are asking them, okay, now you are thinking this thought, and during you are thinking this thought, just please let me know, what are you feeling now when you are thinking this thought? And so we are switching from feeling thought. In fact, we are switching from right half brain to left, right to left, right to left. And at the end, after a few steps, the person will come up with positive things. and we will stop. So we will go on until the person feels, so it might be that after positive things will come again negative, but after a while again positive things will come up and only positive things, and then the person will feel a kind of, he will be very peacefully and happy and released, and then we know now the issue is gone finally and it is solved finally. Then I'm picking up the universal method. This is the last method from Slavinsky. And here, for example, we are only asking, okay, tell me something about your feeling. And the person has to tell you a lot of sentences, what is coming up to his mind. And when maybe he has said 5 or 6 processes, you ask him to inhale. And of course, tell me something about the positive feeling, and you are taking the negative feeling as well. And then you are asking him to tell you about something about these feelings, a few sentences. And after a while, you can ask him, okay, now you can stop and now inhale the positive feeling and the negative feeling at the same time. And when he inhales them and exhales them, then we are putting the question, okay, can you still find a difference between the two feelings? Are they still separately or are they in the unit? And when you say, okay, they are still not in the unit, you are going on and so on. And you are repeating it for a while. And after a while, telling only these sentences, the person will feel that, in fact, he's coming into the unit. Then there is one method I like, for example, inner magical word, and this can apply when people they come to you and they are starting explaining their problem, and when you are asking them, okay, but tell me what you are feeling, they are starting again with telling stories. So you cannot force them to tell of feelings. They are telling stories all the time. And then with this method, you can say, okay, so now just tell me your story in 4 or 5 short sentences. Then he's telling his 5 sentences. He has to write them down. The therapist also needs to write them down. Then he has to close his eyes. You are reading him again what he has told you, and you ask him what he's feeling, what he's thinking, his body sensation, and a picture to it. Then again, he's able to, you ask him to open his eyes, and you are asking him to describe now his whole story in 3 sentences. And again, the 4 elements to it. Then we are going down to 2 sentences, to 1 sentence, and to a single word. And normally when we are going down this, we are making this reduction, a lot of people already, when they are with 1 sentence, then already the sentence is positive. If it is not positive, even if we are reaching to 1 word, then we are going backwards and asking him to say the problem again in 1 sentence, in 2 sentences, 3, and in 4 sentences. And after a while, positive things will come up, and then we know the issue is solved. So for each personality, I would say there's a proper method there. And you don't know, in fact, you don't need to know all the methods. I am teaching them these methods in 2 weekends, and I have people who visited only 1 weekend, and they worked only with a couple of methods, and they were extremely happy because they were working as well. But it is always good to have a lot of tools, and independently on what you need, you can pick one method or another one. Maybe it is interesting for you also to know about this parallel universe. It is something similar like the method is aspectics, and there you are starting with with the goal you want to attain, or a problem you have, let it put that, a problem. And we know that each problem we have has its own goal. And then we are imagining that this goal has been fulfilled. And we're asking the client again, now imagine your goal has been fulfilled, and just let us see the next goal and the next goal of it, and so on. And at the end, we will be in a situation where we cannot find further goals. So we are reaching maybe spiritual goals. At a certain moment, the person said there's nothing, there's just nothing above. And then we are sending the person into this nothing. And there, in fact not a nothing, it is an emptiness from where everything has developed. And there, when we are sending the person there, it is an extremely good feeling. And then the person is pulling this feeling down on the whole stack we have went on, and then his starting negative emotion is solved. When we are using parallel universe, we are doing something similar like in aspectics, but when he's in this emptiness, we are asking the person if somewhere he can perceive something which is different from this emptiness, where if there is something he can find there. And if he can, not everyone can, we ask him to approach that thing he is seeing there. And when he's finding it and is reaching it, he will see that in fact it is himself. And this is himself in a different universe. And then we are putting some questions. Okay, why have you separated? Do you want to unite with your personality here on this earth, and so on? So, but it is not for everyone. It might create some confusions, but issue, so the just to know what is possible. So I just wanted to insist on the primordial polarity. It is said that every one of us has one polarity which is leading in our life. It is so we have only one primal polarity, and it is a polarity which we are born with. So this we had to sort out in this life. And it is nothing which is new in this life. It is something very old, and it has to be solved. And in a few incarnations, we are dealing with this problem. And so with the deep peat method, I remember where you had this stack of feelings, and we went more and more down until we faced the first positive polarity, the positive feeling. So with this method, we cannot find out our primordial polarity. And when we are applying for the first time this deep peat method, then normally we are reaching our primordial polarity, because it is so ancient and it is really striving to be unified. And when we are doing this process for the first time, and we are assuming that we have reached now the primordial polarity, then we are putting some additional questions to be sure that indeed it is like that it is a primordial polarity, because in those moments there's no difference between any polarity. And after that, it is feeling like it might be that after a while when you have solved this polarity, you are a little bit confused in your mind, because we always have lived with this polarity. You can imagine it's just like a street, and on the left and the right side there are trees, and we have always been guided through these two rows of streets of trees. So imagine these trees as the two sides of the polarity, and now they are falling down and we cannot find them anymore, and we are a little bit lost for a few hours or maybe a day. It's not dangerous, but we have to know that this exists, not to be scared of. So, and of course, this primordial polarity is not known by us. So I had customers who said, clients, I know what it is. It was not what they thought it is. It was completely something different. Then here is an example now how it would be when we would work with META-Peat. So for example, we are starting with a feeling disappointing of not having a partner. This is a problem the customer wants to work on it. When he's going a deeper step, a deeper level down into his subconsciousness, then he will have the feeling anger that nobody wants one. A step down is grief because nobody cares about you. Then below, anger because of the own fate, feeling of guilt, physical sensation of being locked up, abandonment, loneliness, helplessness. And after that, the positive feeling will come up, a feeling of deep security. And the two poles of the polarity in this case are helplessness and security. And when this polarity is solved, then the whole stack above is gone. And still the person will not have any partner. We cannot find partners using this method, but he's not disappointed anymore. He has not this feeling anymore. And not having this feeling will maybe allow him to find a proper partner, because he's not striving to find one with all of his personality and so on. So this is how it is working with peat, with this deep peat. And what can we achieve with all these methods which are belonging to peat? We can heal all traumas, it doesn't matter how old they are. We can heal negative emotions, negative properties we have, organic diseases when we are connecting with META-Peat, META-Health, sorry. We can heal our primordial polarity, and we can heal the negative beliefs. For the negative beliefs, I have a third course which is not based on peat, but it is still based on polarities. And in that case, we are using only the polarity between the left and the right brain, and there are 5 or 6 different methods to heal our negative beliefs. They are not belonging to peat, they are belonging to some other methods, but I have picked them up and put them into this META-Peat combination, because I combined them with 2 methods of peat where we can solve emotions, one part where we can solve our beliefs, and the 4th course is META-Health, because with the knowledge of META-Health, we need these methods as well for our emotions and as well for our beliefs. And after learning peak states, I add also here, but this is not a course, it's only a method. I add the method of removing the trigger points, because this I can do with a method from peak states. And then, by my opinion, we have a complete package. And when we are using it together with META-Health, we have really in all directions very good methods of solving things. And of course, like I told yesterday, so when we are removing our negative emotions, we are reaching more and more our spiritual development, so we are increasing it. And when we are lucky, we are coming to a higher consciousness, only solving our negative emotions. And now the advantages of these methods are they are very short in the application. So just to have an idea, the finger method I talked about needs maybe, let it be 8 minutes. And when I wrote, for example, a first article in a journal about peat, no, it was the second one, the journal asked me if they wanted to have examples about it. And one example was a sexual abuse from a lady. And she visited a lot of courses just to get rid of these memories. And when I came from my first PEAT training, and she was always talking about, you know, it doesn't matter about what we were talking, always she said one sentence, you remember my grandpa. And this was, okay, you remember I had a problem. And we met and she told me again, you remember my grandpa. And then I said, okay, I cannot hear anymore. Just let us do the finger method. I have just learned it. And we started it and it was very emotional. And I was really scared at that time because I had done it only a few times during the training. But then I learned it worked even for these extreme situations. It worked pretty well and we were done in, we didn't need it 10 minutes. And when I had to write this article in the journal, I asked her, she should tell me if it was necessary to tell to mention anymore her grandpa. And in the meantime, a year has passed and I called her and she started to laugh at the phone and she said, I haven't mentioned him since then, not even once. It is not needed anymore. And she was really happy about it. So just to have an idea how short they are. And the method which needed the most time is DPEAT, and it needed starting from 10-15 minutes to 40 minutes. But all the other methods are really done within 10 minutes. So that's why I like these methods. And Sivarat, when so the author of the methods, when he showed us an example, he always had his clock and he watched how many minutes he needed it, because he said it is extremely important that we have quick methods. We don't have time for long methods anymore.
Astrid, is it possible to do a demonstration on someone so we get the gist of what it is?
Yes, we could try.
That would
Let
be
me
brilliant.
just
Thank you.
finish. I am done. So you can use this method as a surrogate. So for example, when you have small children and the mother wants to hear something for a child, you can do that. You can apply all the methods on yourself as well. The methods are very easy to learn and they have a great sustainability. And what I can offer, individual sessions, then I offer these 4 independent workshops. So it is not necessary that the first workshop probably you don't need, because Meta Health you can teach, so you have the knowledge of META-Peat, of Meta Health. So for me, my part would be then those 3 independent workshops, so 2 of PEAT and 1 for the belief. You can pick only one of them. You don't need to make all of them. But when someone want to become a META-Peat practitioner, then he needs all 4 of them. Or when the person already know Meta Health, so then he needs only the 3 of them. And then I can do also. So on my homepage, I have a few META-Peat practitioners, and then I'm doing also advertising through my homepage. Now, you said something about doing an example. I just want to tell you when it will not work. And it is when, for example, when I am telling you now how fast these methods are, someone might say, I can't believe it. This is nonsense. It can't be, because I'm working maybe since 20 years on an issue and I'm not getting rid of it. And when a person like that wants to demonstrate that I'm wrong, he will succeed, because he will not do what I am telling him to do. So when a person wants to demonstrate that I'm wrong, he will have success. Then when a person has a secondary gain from his issue, so if, for example, he's extremely anxious and he is not able to go to work because of that, and he's starting to work with me, then he will not get to any polarity because he's feeling well in the situation where he is now. Because whenever it suits to him, he says, okay, I'm just have my problems with my anxiety. I don't want to have guests and so on. So he has already learned that this situation is good for him. And these persons you cannot heal. At the start, you have to heal their beliefs that it is safe also without these illnesses. And another thing is when someone is not going into his negative feeling. I just want to tell a story. When I firstly came with these methods, I wanted to have to demonstrate them in a meeting where also Dr. Bader was there. I think you know Dr. Bader. And I tried to prove them, and I took Dr. Bader as an example. And it didn't work. And after that, he told me, feelings were coming up, but I thought I cannot tell them here in front of this audience. So it for me, it was really, I was really scared because it didn't work. But for the audience, it was also interesting that also there are cases where someone didn't want to share or didn't want to feel some feelings, then also it will not work. So when we have now someone who want to solve an issue, we could use the finger method, for example.
Should I ask somebody to raise their hand who wants to work with you?
Yes, but he should be willing to share. So he don't need to share all his stuff. This is not needed. Sure, yes, and hopefully it will. Okay.
So just raise your hands who are ready to work. Thank you.
I have to admit that until now I have never done this online.
Doesn't matter.
But it should work.
And having fun, yes. Lucille, go ahead. So let's work with Lucille. Thank you.
One second, I have to. Okay, I have to close my. Okay.
Hi.
Okay, Lucille.
Hi. I just want to warn you. I'm in my room and my son's playing outside, so he doesn't know I'm going to be doing this now.
Oh, your son is.
So he might barge in, but that's okay.
Okay. Okay.
I'm used to multitasking with being in an altered state and trying to juggle children.
Okay. With what do you want to work?
Okay, so there is something that I have been struggling with for quite a long time. I had a really, I don't know, do you want something more superficial or something deep, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, good. So my biggest struggle at the moment is I had quite a big self-abandonment conflict. My mom was murdered, and it impacted my thalamus. So a complete self-abandonment to my body. So there's a total separation. So I'm really, really aware of my soul aspect and even my mind aspect separated from my body. And there's a total, hey, I'm not interested in it. You get on with it. We're gonna have